What is up, everybody? Joe Everest, the fence expert. It is October, and that means it's Gate Safety Month. And this video is brought to you proudly by the American Fence Association. Now, when we thought gate safety, what better topic or what better interviewee, what better person to talk to than a professional at Tymetals? Tristan, for the few people out there that may not have met you personally, maybe a brief introduction.
Okay. My name is Tristan Waite. I work with the specifications and design department at Tymetal. I've been with Tymetal for almost 13 years now. I've gone through the certified automated gate system designer course. Primarily my role here is to kind of aid architects, engineers, end users with preliminary sort of upfront planning and design for security needs that they have.
Gotcha. And again, so with Tymetals, maybe if you're a professional contractor in the fencing industry, you're pretty familiar with Tymetals. But maybe for some of the newer contractors that haven't had the chance to learn more about Tymetals, where does Tymetals fit in the conversation?
So, as a manufacturer, we really focus on high security, well-engineered gates. Our primary focus is with regard to gates. We do aluminum vehicular gates, very heavy duty pedestrian gates. We're very deeply involved in the correctional industry. So that's really our primary focus is on high security, well-engineered, top of the line quality equipment. That's really what we strive to offer. Yeah.
And just in my experience, so you guys are a manufacturer, but you guys also provide some limited field support as well. Is that right?
Yes. We have an excellent tech team. Always in-person support. Anyone that calls into Tymetal, they're most often going to speak to a live person and get directly put in contact with someone in our tech team. We like to turn around parts in extremely short order. And yes, we do have some field techs that we send to site from time to time. Mostly site commissionings. Okay. Sometimes as a package, we'll include a commissioning where a tech they'll go to site, evaluate the installation, make any comments as far as what could be, improved upon, and then kind of sign off on those installations as an added service. But also from time to time, we also do some site installation support where we'll drop in a tech for a few days at critical junctures in an installation, say, for a crash gate, we'll send a tech out to just make sure everything's shored up properly and, in line before we start pouring concrete, things like that.
Sure. Makes sense. Now, when we're talking about gates, we're talking about just the wide variety of gates, right? Sliding, swing gates, vertical lift. You mentioned crash ratings, and all sorts of specialty gates. So it's really, really kind of a one-stop shop when it comes to gates, sounds like.
Absolutely. We'll do anything. Custom gates. It's hard to advertise that because it's really customer driven, but sure. Yeah, we'll do anything that we can. We have a good base. We, like you mentioned, we have slide gates, swing gates, vertical gates. So an enormous variety of, custom gates can be built just off of that base. It's a lot of times it's really aesthetic, but
sure.
Yeah, pretty wide ranging.
But also it kind of goes beyond gates as well, right? The more we're learning about Tymetals is that's what you're best known for, but it's not the only product offerings from you guys.
That's true. Yeah. So Tymetal has been in business for 40 years, and for most of that, primarily an aluminum gate company. But we more recently sort of combined forces with a steel fabrication company that was owned by the Fort Miller Group. It's all Tymetal now. So really our primary focus is just any and all manner of aluminum and steel fabrication. And like I mentioned, we really excel when it comes to the custom stuff.
Sure. Got it. Now, I probably became more aware of you guys. I've always heard of you guys, but more aware at FenceTech. It seems like every FenceTech I'm at, you guys have a pretty large presence at. I'm assuming we'll probably see you at FenceTech 2026.
For sure. Yep.
Now, I'm supposed to ask, and feel free if these are going to be if these are closely held, but anything that we can look forward to seeing at FinStech 2026.
So we've been slowly rolling this out for a while, but ballistic gates, ballistic fence panels, it's really
Okay.
ballistic metal or cladding is something that we're starting to get into, and it's starting to take off. So that's going to be a focus at the trade show, and it has been at the past few, but we'll
Sure.
continue to do that. And also our TCRB ELA, which is an upgrade to our electromechanical TCRB.
Okay.
The older version, Gen 1, so to speak, is it's relies on a gearbox and linkage to lift the beam. Our newer design that we're going to be rolling out, it relies on a direct drive linear actuator. It's a smaller motor, but the beam is now counterweighted, so that small motor can run a much larger beam. So we're excited about that. The new electromechanical version of our crash rated drop arms, we're going to get a bit of a wider opening and just all around improved on that system. So we'll definitely be demonstrating that at Fence Tech.
Very good. Very good. Ballistics. I mean, it seems like that's becoming more of when we're talking about high security ratings. We're talking about ballistics. We're talking about, again, crash rating. We're talking about maybe explosives. I've seen a few demonstrations on just, explosives and that sort of thing. It seems like you guys are trying to keep up with the world as it progresses or as high security needs become more needed.
Yeah, they evolve for sure. I remember when the crash thing really, I mean, I guess it had taken off, but compared to now, it's just, it's crazy. The amount of crash gate sales we've done over the years, it's just exploded. Ballistic is it's going to be a requirement that we see more and more. It's a lot of power utility sites, other sites, but it's critical infrastructure. Probably some data center upgrades too, where you'll see that, and it's really about protecting sites that I don't want to pigeonhole it, but unmanned sites, utility substations, sites where you don't necessarily have guards on duty, or even a lot of times they're just unmanned completely. And so you're seeing more and more with these electric utility substations, they're putting in some pretty tall barrier walls with ballistic walls and gates to prevent a terror attack where someone could potentially do something to harm the transformers or other critical infrastructure within those facilities.
Yeah, it seems like energy in general, meaning that there's some fairly large, even like natural gas projects going on in terms of energy production that are taking obviously their security very seriously because they're seeing this on the electrical side and understanding that also natural gas is probably something we want to keep really safe as well.
Right. Anything where if something was knocked offline could really impact a large portion of the nation.
Absolutely.
People are starting to focus on that.
For good reason.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, Tristan, I want to kind of bring us back to gate safety. I mean, this, like I said, it's October. It's Gate Safety Month. And the American Fence Associations want to make sure everyone is armed with as much information as they can have to make every gate a safe gate. Can we talk a little bit about how Tymetal is taking a lead in gate safety through? Maybe it's your engineering, can you walk us through that a little bit?
Engineering, they tend to focus more on the ASTM side of things, which ASTM and UL 325 they go hand in hand. Engineering, they're looking at it from the gate design perspective. Myself and the specifications team, we work with the customer. We're looking at their site. We try to get as in-depth as we can. We don't always have that luxury, but anytime we can take a look at a site plan, that's really the spec department where we shine, is not only hand-holding people through what gate design is going to best serve their needs, but also, being that second pair of eyes to spot any potential problem areas that could be addressed, usually with just making sure you're up to compliance with UL 325.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So can we touch on that briefly? So ASTM or UL 325, ASTM, the F2200. Can we touch briefly on maybe what those mean to the end user and the gate installer contractor?
Yeah, well, I mean, from our perspective, we it's about educating. They don't know; it's not necessarily their job to know, but unfortunately, an end user can find themselves at risk of liability if something's out of
Mhm.
compliance. So we take that to heart. We're pretty serious about it, and yeah, it's that's the important aspect to it, is just keeping people up to date, educating people. A lot of times for people in the industry, it seems obvious, but for people who they're just looking for a gate to secure their facility,
Yeah.
there's things that they would never even think of. And I find most often they're appreciative.
Sure.
Most 99.9% of the time, people want to make sure that their facilities are safe,
Yeah.
and that their gates are in compliance.
Well, because just as much liability that sits on the contractor sits on the end user as well. I mean, just for
Absolutely.
making sure that everything on their property meets standards and it is as safe as possible.
Yeah,
So,
manufacturers as well. It's
sure.
we really take that to heart. We don't want to knowingly sell a system that wouldn't comply with UL standards or ASTM and could potentially harm someone. It's not worth the risk. There's not a sale big enough to tarnish our name like that. So
Sure.
we're conservative about it. We try to be as mindful of it as possible at all times. And yeah, like I said, just keep people educated, and usually that's very much appreciated.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Now, so we talked about making sure that gate safety is a priority through design, but you guys are also, I think you had mentioned it, also taking another step forward as far as hosting trainings and like educational seminars around gate safety in general, not maybe specifically time metals, but just in general. Does that sound right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're an AFA sponsor,
Sure.
and yeah, we don't really do a ton in the way of training people specifically on UL and ASTM.
Sure.
Um, I'd say it's more, you know, we educate our customers and our clients.
Okay. Absolutely. So you brought up sponsoring the American Fence Association. So the American AFAU, the Fencing Installation School, the Gate Operator School, that's coming up here. It's going to be here before we know it's here next month. You guys are one of the sponsors of the AFAU. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
There
Proud
you go.
sponsor, been a proud member of the AFA for a long time, and we appreciate the continued support, and appreciate the opportunity to offer our support and our expertise, and yeah, anything we can to help further that cause.
Absolutely. Tristan, are there any notable installations that come to mind as far as again, Time Metals taking the lead on making sure gates are safety and gate safety is a priority?
It's really every single one. I mean, we have kind of a standard template that we go by here. If we manufacture gates, we sell gate and operator system packages. Every system package that goes out, it's got photo eyes. The operator has an inherent sensing feature. We'll keep a lookout for anything else that might be required. Sometimes you need an extra pair of photo eyes to cover an area because you have kind of a funky fence run, or
Yeah.
sometimes it's a larger gate, and a photo eye just won't span some of the enormous openings we do. And so we'll suggest a Miller sensing edge on the
Sure.
lead and tail of a gate as a safety.
So it sounds like you guys are keeping an eye out for maybe some common mistakes that you guys see often as far
Yeah,
as laser eyes that are trying to be pushed to their limit or past their limit. It sounds like that example, but also just basically safety and monitoring of the gates that you guys are providing.
absolutely. Yeah.
Tristan, where do you think, we know where we are today and we know where we were maybe a decade ago. Where do you think the industry is headed as far as maybe gate safety, gate design, that sort of thing?
I think gate design, it's really, if you follow the ASTM's 900 and 1184 as it relates to gate design, I think you're pretty well covered. And we do that. All of our gates are designed with every item in those ASTMs in mind. As far as innovation, I mean, we stick with the tried and tested, photo eyes, sensing edges, good operators built by reputable manufacturers that have the appropriate safeties built into them. Beyond that, I think where the innovation lies is really just spreading the knowledge, bringing people up to speed, incentivizing compliance, I think, is a big thing. You do run into occasionally someone who it's inconvenient for them to comply with UL safety standards, and they don't want to do it. They want to figure out some way to skirt around it. And, so encouraging that, enforcing it to some degree, I think through, everybody gaining an understanding that it's an important thing and that it really serves everybody to work within those parameters and keep everybody safe.
Absolutely, because no one wants to feel like they're responsible for an accident, right? Because something got skirted or maybe a shortcut was taken. No matter, like you said, no matter what the cost savings, it's never worth it, right? The final cost is never worth whatever savings, whether it be time or money, are out there for it.
Yeah, and like I said, overwhelming majority of the time, people, once you open their eyes to the realities of gate safety and not following it, most people, they're more than willing to make sure that they work with it.
Well, and luckily, it seems like in the last handful of years, education is really on the rise, as far as specifically regarding gate safety, but also broadly in the industry. And I've got to think that helps, right? Is education, making sure you know what to do and how to do it, but also kind of understanding the repercussions of taking either an intended or unintended shortcut.
Absolutely, yeah. I work with like I said, primarily architects, engineers, some end users on the preliminary design phase of projects. And more and more, I would say, over the decade and a half I've worked in this industry, architects they'll approach me saying, "Hey, I've got this thing. Does this comply with UL? What can I do to make sure I comply with UL?" Whereas 10 years ago, I was telling people about UL as if they had never heard of it before. So awareness is definitely increasing rapidly, I think.
Absolutely. And so, Tristan, we talked a lot about ASTM and UL. So Tymetal is active in these discussions, right? So not only making sure you're reactive to whatever's coming out, but also active in the conversations about what is gate safety and how can we make gates safer.
Yes.
Absolutely. So let's talk about. So we talked a lot about the installations, making sure the initial installation is safe. It checks all the boxes. We are installing safe gates, but maybe we spend a little bit of time on gate safety. Doesn't end at the day of turnover, right? The day that everything's complete, everything gets turned over to the owner. There is kind of an ongoing gate safety need when we're installing these gates.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, I would say, educating owners, making sure that the owners are part of the conversation as much as possible is huge. You'll send out a gate sometimes and the picket spacing doesn't comply with UL, but you include a secondary fabric that attaches to the gate and it prevents reach through. Making sure that knowledge makes its way all the way to the end user ensures that someone wouldn't come along and say, I don't like this nylon fabric being attached to my nice picket gate, tear it off. Now you've got a gate where someone could stick their arm through. So
absolutely,
that's just an example. But yeah, that's the main point, I guess, is, making sure everybody's on board. That's really the importance of it is making sure that nothing gets disabled, nothing gets modified after the fact.
That's something that we see on our end when it comes to the automated side it's usually companies that have their own in-house maintenance that maybe for whatever reason, it's never at the initial installation. It's always sometime in the future that something gets disabled because it's not working quite right and disabling makes it work again. And unfortunately, so we eventually get called in later on when it's really not working right. And then we see so many safeties disabled, like, guys, you are operating incredibly hazardously. I mean, it becomes a problem. So I think, again, educate, to your point, educating the end user on why the safety is important, why the safeties need to be there, whether it is, just a physical mesh on the gate or more of the automation and security side. Hey, we do need these lasers to actually be monitoring. We do need the strike protection to be monitoring, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to mention. We talked earlier about innovations, and I think that the 10K resistor addition to Photo Eyes and that requirement, I think, was a good addition. So I guess there could be some innovation on the tech side. I just
Sure.
my mind doesn't go there, but someone smarter than me figures that stuff out.
Well, just monitoring to make sure those safeties are still in place, I think, is always a
Sure.
good idea, right? That they're in place, that they're operating correctly, that they are actually providing the safety that we think they're going to offer.
Right. Yeah.
I think when we're talking to contractors, I think one of the, offerings that a lot of contractors are missing out on is maybe like an annual inspection, annual maintenance of these gates. Now, we're talking about automated gates, which absolutely that's important, but I think we should also be talking about just standard gates, right? Non-automated side of gates are still ripe for, safety and hazard concerns and should be annually inspected.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of our manuals will have a kind of a rough kind of outline of what should be inspected.
Okay.
It depends on the use of the gate, but quarterly or semi-annually, we encourage contractors to check the gates. Make sure they roll freely by hand. Check to make sure that everything's nice and tight. There's no loose bracketry or bolts or anything like that. Check the cables to make sure that the gates aren't sagging. There's an adjustability with our gates where if the lead edge of the gate's starting to kind of nosedive a little bit, it's really just a matter of adjusting a few cables to truss that back up. So yes, we definitely encourage contractors to quarterly or semi-annually take a look at our gates, make sure everything's functioning as it should. And as I said, we've got a great tech team, always happy to take a phone call, and we can usually get parts out next day. So
absolutely. And I think one of the key takeaways here is that we should really be treating these gates as machinery, right? That people are treating them just as a product, or maybe just as the physical part of a fence. But when we start treating them like machines, that we've got to design them correctly, install them correctly, and maintain them correctly, and make sure they're safe. I think it leads us or gets us closer to the goal of gate safety for every gate.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, people focus on UL and F2200, but manual gate safety is hugely important. Making sure that a rolling gate can't begin rolling by its own weight, i.e. being installed level. Making sure that things are installed properly is huge. These gates, even our aluminum gates, they're light. Some of the lightest gates out there still, they can weigh, 500, 1,000 pounds. Absolutely. That's no joke. So something like that, you don't want it to come loose and go toppling over on someone.
Right. Well, making sure safety stops are there, making sure that repairs that have been made in the past aren't impacting the gate safety. I mean, there was, a recent example within the last several years, an example of a non-automated gate, but that had maybe been repaired, hadn't been maintained or inspected, rolled past its stop, and then fell. Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, and that's why I say we need to take all the gates seriously. Right. I mean, we've been talking about swing gate or slide gates, cantilevered gates, that sort of thing, but swing gates can be just as dangerous if the hinges fail, or if for whatever reason this gate becomes unstable. We need to treat every gate as a safe gate, really.
Swing gates, you mentioned that. I don't see our peers in the industry focus as much on this, but we actually we have a policy here. We won't sell a gate if the wind load on an average day, a 2 pound per square foot wind load, if that amount of pressure on a gate panel would exceed a 50 pound, essentially we stole it from OSHA, the push, pull, or lift OSHA requirement that 50 pounds or less. So we look at gates for that as well. And, if a gate, sometimes it's a tiny gate, a 10-foot wide gate.
Sure.
If you're trying to put solid infill in it and a light breeze puts more than 50 pounds of pressure on that gate, it becomes a hazard. Most
Absolutely.
people don't think of that. And it's not, I don't think there's really any set standard in the industry for that. It's something that we kind of we decided we should be doing this to make sure that the gates are unsafe. And, if you think about it, if you've ever handled even just a little sheet of plywood on a windy day, it can take off on you,
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, and I think maybe one of the dangerous parts of the thinking is too, to think, well, you or I can handle this gate. I mean, it's not that big of a deal when we're not considering someone that doesn't have the physical capabilities as you and I, whether they be younger, smaller, whatever the reason, is not as physically capable. Something that may not be dangerous to you or I, may be manageable, could be very dangerous and very unmanageable to somebody with lesser physical abilities.
Sure. Or someone who's just not familiar. A gust of wind can come out of nowhere. So, operating a swing gate on a gusty day, there could be a scenario where an innocent victim, they don't even know how to handle a gate and what to look out for. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Tristan, I appreciate your time. If someone has follow-up questions in regards to Tymetal's active engagement in gate safety, how can they reach out?
Go on our website, tymetal.com. Give us a call. We list our specification and design associates by region. Pretty good resource, our website. We have a lot of downloads, but we always encourage people, if you have any questions, rather than go on and just start downloading things, don't be shy. Give us a call. Always happy to discuss. We're a bunch of gate nerds here, so we'll gladly take a phone call from anyone that's interested in the gate and has questions about anything from what type of gate they need or, any safety aspects, anything like that.
Perfect. Guys, if you're watching at home and just have general questions about gate safety, you can always search AmericanFenceAssociation.com/education. Also, check out the hummingbirdalliance.org. A lot of good information as far as gate safety goes there. Tristan, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being willing to come on and talk gate safety with me.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
Guys at home, appreciate your time for tuning in. Remember, AFA would like you to remember that safe gates save lives. I think Tristan and I both agree on that. Make sure every gate is safe every single time. For now, Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors, and I'll see you next time.